We're back for another episode of Bucket List Living with Brad Norwood. I'm your host, Brad Norwood. And with me today, ladies and gentlemen, we've gone way out there and we've got Mr. Wonderful himself. It's Jeremy Wonn. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. That's high praise for a rookie. I guess the name does says it all. So I
Well,
appreciate that intro.
oh, and we'll get into your email address and that kind of thing later on. But hey, you're a wonderful guy. You're a participant of the Bucket List Life Plan through the Duley group. And for those that don't know you, Jeremy, let's just dive right in. Tell us the story of Jeremy Wonn.
Oh man, this goes all kinds of directions. So I grew up in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Great family, two parents, sister. Played baseball growing up. That was my whole everything, baseball and family. I played every day. Played in high school, played in college for a minute until my shoulders and elbow began to fall apart. I was at Arkansas Tech. That lasted a year. Meanwhile, had been dating my current wife for 2 years then. So we're coming up on 25 years. So anyway, I moved back home, commuted, went to UCA, finished my degree there miraculously. I have the framed diploma to prove it. And my wife and I, my girlfriend at the time, we made the decision after college that my work, the company I was with called Document Solutions out of Little Rock, it's more or less a high-powered copy scan company for law firms. I was in sales there. There's only one promotion, and it was to St. Louis. So, well, there were others I wasn't taking, Jackson, Mississippi, et cetera. So St. Louis was the expansion. Moved up there with her, kind of surprised everybody because we're very much, kind of homebodies at heart. Lived in St. Louis from 2002 through 2000 and end of 2018. Meanwhile, we were trying to have a child for several years. Didn't happen. Wound up finding an amazing medical group and doctor who led us through the IVF process. From that, our first time, we had our lovely daughter, Anderson Riley Wonn. She's 9 today. Just like everybody who has kids, she's our everything. She's the best thing on earth, and we believe all that. But I'm going to be saying the same thing that every other parent would. There's nothing more you could possibly ask of her. She's everything we could have hoped for, dreamed of. So we stopped our family there due to all of the processes, due to some of the almost complications. I shouldn't say almost complications my wife had, but it was all good. And I know I jumped ahead. What I did, what I mentioned I did in Little Rock, it's really, it's you are calling on law firms to be their go-to for all of the outsourcing they do, which is of course huge for mostly defense firms. So I sold that. It was a great business, great industry. I did really well. I was, someone that was respected in the St. Louis community. I was someone that was a go-to, but that business had a huge shift when everything went digital. Although St. Louis being dead center in the middle of the country does take a little while to shift from a lot of our, partner companies that were on the coast or even in bigger cities, it still happened. And also at that same time, partially maybe due to some things I'll get into in a minute. At that same time, I just fell out of love from doing it because that just happens. It's the same old type deal. And even though every day I get new jobs and, jobs being projects, it still it ran its course. So during that time, toward the tail end of it, I guess this started. I had back problems that it's so hard to remember. They started sometime in maybe 2013, 14. Um, I tweaked it at the gym one day doing the most basic exercise. I intentionally don't do heavy weights because of the surgeries I've had um, from mostly baseball injuries. Anyway, hurt my back really bad. And, through all the meds they give you and all the medicating and just trying to deal with it. And it was one of those things where I was on the bed with my, at the time, toddler daughter after work. It was just known that like I wasn't going to be able to do much. And during that time, I started drinking, definitely to medicate, but just, all the stresses of life that everybody has. But then on top of it, I felt like I just couldn't get comfortable. The pain was terrible. Um, that's excuse and reason, I guess. But really, when we were talking about this, and I thought the primary thing I have to share um, about my story was, I started to drink heavily. Um, I don't necessarily need to get into every detail about this part, but was hiding it pretty significantly. I'm not alone in that. I understand from people who have had different problems. Uh, my wife is certainly not an enabler, but she, it's a trusty relationship, been together forever. You get really good at hiding things. It's really sad to say, but you really can. It's the thing I'm, the most regretful of that I've ever done. But that went on for maybe 4-ish years or so. And um, one day, one day is January 4th, 2018. Um, Woke up, had an incredibly terrible pain, felt like a big stone in my abdomen on the right side. As if your wife has, the baby has a 2 feet kicking out or whatever. It was that prominent. I could see it that well. Um, so went into the hospital. They said, "Am I going too far ahead?"
You're good.
Okay. Into the hospital. They said, "Finally, Jeremy, you've got pancreatitis." They figured it out, some tests. And my wife at the time was like, "How is this? He doesn't drink much." Well, okay. So I'm just sitting there kind of numb because it's all came to a head, right? It's
Yeah.
all hitting me. I'm just sitting there. Yeah. So family member sees the text. My wife has sent it to the family. Hey, I don't know what could be going on. They're just listing all these things. It's none of them. Of course, my wheels are turning. I'm in a feeling terrible, in addition to me being scared. So family member calls me, not immediate family, but somebody calls me, says, "Hey, you've got to tell them what's going on." And my wife had handed me the phone, heard it, but I was about to tell her anyway. I'm like, yes. And so I just said, hang up. So she starts kind of tearing up. Um, well, he said specifically, you got to tell her she doesn't know that you've been drinking so much. Anyway, so we cried and talked. The doctor came in and was super nurturing. But then she just realized, hey, do you want to be alive for your daughter? So anybody that's ever heard that, you say you'll take a bullet, you'll jump in front of a train for a daughter, you for darn sure better get yourself together and whatever. So that was the decision that I made right then, January 4th, 2018. Stayed in the hospital 6 days. Lots of things went on in there. Came out. Luckily, my company at the time is only the second company I had worked with, a small business. They're awesome. Still keep in contact. They worked with me. They were super supportive. They knew who I was and didn't know I had this problem, but when all the signs were pointed at them, they weren't surprised. So anyway, that's been 3 years, 1 month, and 5 days or so.
Yeah.
That's
And you'd text me that on January 4th this year. That's when I invited you to come and tell the story to be on the podcast. So go back in that moment, Jeremy. I know you're talking about you were hiding some things and of the sorts. Go back, if you will, just a little bit in that when you come to the realization of the battle that you really are facing. Did you realize it before you were in the hospital, or is that again when you said everything kind of came to a head? Is that when you realized too, I do have a problem?
I knew I did. I am a lot of things, but I'm self-aware. There's lots of signs, but um, there's people that are in my life that are the most supportive people, and I love more than anything, who maybe don't want to see it this way, as in I really had this problem. But that's just an excuse. That's just kind of burying the head in the sand. I mean, that's what it was. And sometimes that made me drink even more, knowing it's like it's such a depressed state, even though, you can be in the middle of a baseball field with the sun shining and the crowd roaring. But if you've got a problem, you've got a problem. So it didn't matter that the family around me were the best people ever, are the best people ever. Nothing negative I can say about all of them. Daughter, all the laughs, all the fun. I could, the only thing, here's the only thing that I look at still as a thing. I'm glad that in all of those problems and struggle that I did, it sounds like a minor consolation. I made sure my daughter went to bed every night before I started.
Hmm.
That was a given. So anyway, that's something that I take away from it. So through it all, and someday I'll talk with her about it, because this really is a problem that people can have, and I don't know when that'll be. It's certainly not now. But so knew I had the problem. Did It's a hard thing to quit, man.
Yeah.
People, there's smoking, which thankfully I didn't do. There's all these other things. It's a hard thing to quit. It sporting events, it's like those commercials where a delivery driver's driving around the neighborhood and he just has to light a cigarette because it's muscle. It's like a thing that he does. Watching a sporting event, and I don't mean having a beer, Brad, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean going to bar and having a beer. That wasn't. I didn't even go to bars. I didn't even go out. I go at home. But so it's just, yeah, the problem was significant. I just didn't stop it on my own until I was forced in the hospital and made the decision there.
Sure. And so, Jeremy, we met when you obviously you found your way back into Northwest Arkansas, not Central Arkansas, and we met through your job with the Duley Group, Keller Williams Real Estate Duley Group, when you went through the bucket list life plan, and talk about how that plan has propelled you even more forward, if you will, than the direction you were already going. It kind of gave you a boost, if you will. Talk about how the bucket list life plan has helped you in this journey.
So, for starters, the thing that jumped out, other than you brazenly and me loving the fact that you wear shorts to every sales meeting, that's incredible. Love that. But in all seriousness, the talking about attacking every day, living it with intentionality. And I'll be honest, I don't have the acronyms in front of me, of course, right? But I'm going to tell you what I really got out of it. We all have reasons why we're not going to do things, why we shouldn't do things, or why we shouldn't be able to be successful, because it's a numbers game, and why try to go after your dreams? You're not likely to get there. These are the things you hear as a norm. Why think that you can go do this incredible thing? Well, what you really drove home, yourself and Larry, but you, of course, we're speaking to us more. What you really drove home was your term head trash. get every single bit of that out of your head, because you'll never conquer it if your head is full of it. And it's just all the clutter and all the noise that tells you why you shouldn't do something. Well, why should you try to get a real estate license? It doesn't pay anything unless you do deals. Most people don't succeed. 87% of people fail in their first year. Why would you try to do it? Granted, you were in a room of people that believe in themselves more than some, or they wouldn't be there, but everybody still has it. So the intentionality which you live every day, and you try to make sure that, or you don't try, you make sure that you do the things that are really going to move the needle in your life. They're not always business. They're not always just family. It's a mix, it's a balance. And then again, I've just mentioned the dreams. I mean, that's if I'm not mistaken, you also do, you take people on dream vacations and to do dream events. That what are you living for? If you just want to live in the boring of some of these funny movies they've made with somebody who truly does the exact same thing every day, there's different ones. It's like, that's not for a lot of us. And I really, I was enabled to get here by what I started doing 3 years ago, becoming sober. But I have really been driven since I joined the Duley group, and and then ultimately we went through the bucket list program, but that's been huge. I don't know if I would have be exactly where I am today without all of it.
Yeah, well, it's been fun to work with you going through that. And we mentioned you were in with the Dooley group, and I know that's been a journey and a found destination for you as well. Talk about how you came into the Dooley group and what you're doing, because you're doing more than just real estate. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I found Mike. I got 15 minutes on his calendar, which is hard to do for any of you that know him. I found Mike through a friend of a friend of his wife's growing up. She said, "You've got to talk to this guy if you're even considering real estate. I bet he'll give you time, because I'll talk to him." So when I got here, he and I clicked instantly. He's got all the charisma in the world, of course. He doesn't take you long to believe in him. As far as getting him to believe in me, once I see something that I really like and love, it's as if I kind of knew right away that this is where I should be. I attacked it as far as, I'm not going to let him not give me a spot here to see what I can do. I'm not going to ask for too much, and I'm not talking about in the way of money or whatever. I'm just saying, as far as where my spot is, I just want to get the foot in the door. Like you hear in sales all the time. If you're the salesperson side going after a client, it's like, I just need my foot in the door. Once I got my foot in the door, I started realizing really quickly he needed help. He didn't need help necessarily bringing in business. I guess you could argue that we always want more business, but we needed help doing all the stuff. And there's stuff that you need a kind of a glue person for. You need somebody that, if I see that this one of his businesses needs a little bit of help here, this one needs a little bit of help, he needs all this support managing this. Some of his other people who support him are not in the office, so there's that obstacle. There's a lot that needs to be picked up. So I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna pick up all the pieces. And I have that. Mick, one of my mentors here and one of my favorite guys, Mick says, you have a servant attitude, and really do. A lot of it comes from my mother, grandmother, but I thrive on being able to take all the kind of junk and try to make it into like a pretty little bow and where we're ready to go. And so he had a huge need for that. So I parlayed kind of an entry level thing into where I was going to be maybe making some phone calls on behalf of some clients, and that wasn't really structured. We didn't have that figured out. We've since figured out a different way to do it. I said, let me do all of the stuff you've talked about. There's nothing too much, too little, whatever. Let me do it. He taking care of me in all kinds of ways. And he's also given me the ability to learn from him and his leaders, the ability to understand what's going on in a lot of his businesses. the responsibility and accountability to help make sure that a lot of these things come to fruition, whether they be programs we're doing, whether they be new ways that we are organizing our business in-house. Just, I do a little bit of everything and I love it. Like I am, it's all over, and it's kind of day and night and middle of the night, but I'm so glad that I'm here. I absolutely, truly do love it. So I kind of have two gigs here. I'm a realtor for 2 months now, and for 5 months now, Mike calls him the utility knife. I have a title with some words, but I do everything.
Right. Yeah, you're the glue holding everybody together around there, right? I know Mike was on the podcast just a few weeks ago, and he's a ready, fire, aim guy. Always has been, always will be. Extremely successful with that method. Not many people are, but he's only successful, and he's quick to give everybody credit around him, especially you, for being the glue that holds that all together.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And, it's hard to say that of yourself, but I take huge pride in doing it and making it happen. So I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of pieces, as you know, there's a lot of pieces in that organization over there. So you've always got your hands full with something, right? Let's talk about, I know you're new into it, but the market's hot. What a great time to be a new realtor. Talk about the real estate market, not only in Northwest Arkansas, but the Duley Group also in Northwest Florida.
So, where I'm licensed in Arkansas as of 2 months now. And as a group, the thing that we are faced with that just seems crazy is that we have about, give or take, because we have little things going around, 107 buyers that we are looking for homes for. This doesn't mean people who call you and say, hey, I'd like to talk with you. This means people who are like, I'll spend $205 tomorrow, I'll spend $405 tomorrow, I'll spend $605 tomorrow. I need to buy. However, there's under 800 homes on the market. There's 3,000 realtors, there's all these brokerages, there's all these other people looking. If we have 100 and there's only 800, the math doesn't work. So we're fighting through that. We have to be creative and not just look on the MLS and try to find a home for them and point at it. We in Northwest Florida, different deal. They're just getting going as of maybe November-ish. Jennifer Etheridge, our CEO down there, she leads the team. She has 4 agents now. One of them's brand new. They are getting some traction, but this isn't the short play game. So they've done some deals, but they're really, each of the agents down there is looking for their niche, and some of them are finding it. And Jennifer already has hers, mostly with retired, with vets, with military vets, and that goes great for her. That's her niche, and that's awesome. Panama City area primarily. And there's a battle getting them up and going when you've never done it. And we had to make sure that we get them all the stuff that they need, which is, not easy to try to start up something for the first time. But here, another thing that we're facing is we have all of our young agents, which we have a lot of them, are all really, really hungry to be pulling at Mike's time that he doesn't have, but he gives it, that of David's time, our senior director of sales, Mick's time, another one of our director of sales, and then our other leaders. Everybody's trying to grab at them. And so we thought, we've really got to try, we have to coach people better. And so I put together, Mick and I, a list of everything that we need to cover, at least the quick hitters. And we started a coaching program to try to really get us more educated and separate us from the rest of the pack. And, that's our goal. Our goal is to be the best. Our goal is to be the best within Keller Williams. There's no shame in saying that. When everyone wants to be the best, that's when things usually, that's when everybody has the best chance of being their best. So we have a team of really, really hungry agents who are in here and working at it. And it's It's a lot. It's a lot to see every day. It's refreshing. And you got a lot of people who get let's just face it, you get a paycheck whenever they do a deal, and they're working hard at it every day.
Yeah.
Um,
That and you've got a fun group there too, like you said, young, energetic group. And one of my favorite things that Mike, as a CEO, says, you mentioned you're always trying to help each other, but yet Mike always puts the emphasis on the realtors, especially, to say you are your own CEO. Talk about what that's like, especially you being in multiple roles within the company. What's that like to be your own CEO?
I'm really having to work at it to balance and put time in for me. Especially I have another night gig a few times a week I can get into later, but I'm really, really having to block time. And Mick will tell you, if Keller Williams says Keller Williams as a company, if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. Um, so I've been trying to time block better. However, um, all of the things that happen here and me being right here in the middle, it's really difficult. But what Mike preaches with you are your own, when he says you are your own CEO, he will go to any one of the agents or those who are getting their license and soon to be agents. And he's like, what else do you want to do? And people usually say, oh, well, sell this many houses, or, oh, I'd like to also do this. Maybe have a team under you with so-and-so, my friend. He's like, no, no, what else do you want to do? And it doesn't really matter what they say. They want to open up 2 self car washes. They want to do a company baking cookies, like one of our agents. They want to have you could keep going. You could go forever. They want to sell activewear. So Mike, when he says you are your own CEO, he gives us as much of him in terms of what he's had to do to be a successful business person. And he'll tell you he's figuring it out all the time. It's every day. There's failures, right? There's successes. He always says fail forward. You have to try it. You're not ever gonna succeed all the time. But he pours into people like he did with investing in the bucket list living program. But him pouring into us, it's so genuine. If somebody came in and 10 days they were like this and 8 days they were like this, it's like, yeah, people see through that really quickly. No,
Yeah.
it's 100% of the time. And you could tell, I can see him getting out of his truck someday. Every day is not perfect, right? But when he walks through that door, he and I are usually here before the others, but when he walks through that door, if he's had meetings or whatever, people are here, it's not fake. He's turned on. He knows he's got to bring a lot of the energy. He knows he's the leader. People look up to him. Let's face it. That's why a lot of the people are on this group. They could join other groups. Mike brings people to the fold through authenticity and his successes, his name, his reputation. So he wants us to succeed. He wants to be part of some of the businesses if it makes sense for everybody, and he certainly will want to listen and he'll give his input. He doesn't have the type of mentality that thinks he's always right and thinks there's no way that someone's idea can't be good if he doesn't love it. But he truly does want us to do whatever we have to do to be successful. Some days he knows people need a family day. He will tell them. They don't always listen because you know how we are, but you should stay away. But it's his passion. He pours into the business in general, but real estate. He's on it all the time. He's like a lot of leaders like that, but he's also different than a lot in how genuine he is and what he gives to us. And I can speak personally for how much he's already given to me, and his awesome wife, Cody Duley, who's our top agent and who's just truly incredible in many ways. So they poured into me. They've accepted me, one of the family, and it's really couldn't ask for anything more. And so my obligation now is to just keep making our company better, and keep trying to find more time for me to make myself a great real estate agent.
Yeah, and they do a great job of that at the Duley Group with incorporating everybody into the family atmosphere, if you will. But I can tell you from the outside as well, as a customer, on the selling end of the deal, how they incorporate the customer into it as well. And so as we wrap up our time here, Jeremy, because that experience that you all provide for the buyer and for the seller is second to none on any other real estate agency I've ever seen, witnessed, been a part of. And so as we wrap up our time, how do people get a hold of you personally? We'll put that in the show notes as well. But how do they get a hold of Jeremy when they're ready? We need sellers right now, right? They're ready to sell their home. And I know you always need a buyer too. How do they get a hold of Jeremy?
So my email address is spelled WONNDERFULHOMES at kw.com. That's spelled like Wonderful Homes, except it's Wonn because my last name has two N's. So it's Wonderful Homes at kw.com. My phone number is 314-662-6736. And I guess with that, I'll just say, if you call me, you're not just getting me. We have 25 agents who help. We all work together, as Brad said. And although maybe I didn't give a glowing representation of my real estate side so far, what I will say is that I'm all day, every day, and I will work as hard as anyone will. And customer service is number one with me, and as Brad said, and that's when you're buy or sell with the Duley Group, we'll take care of you from start to finish. So please reach out.
Yeah, it's a wonderful process that you all put on, and again, that you just become part of the family. It's a wonderful, wonderful deal. Jeremy, I've got to ask you, like we do at the end of every bucket list life coaching plan. You know this, you're used to this. But I do it at the end of every episode as well for guests on the show. What are you going to be intentional about today?
I am going to call 50 people. That is something that we believe strongly in. I'm going to make the phone calls. I am going to make sure that I go buy my wife a Valentine's present. And I am going to be sure that I would say what else am I going to do? I am going to absolutely be sure to call someone I hadn't talked to in a little while and, tell them that I love them. And that's something I've been meaning to do that just came out of nowhere, but just things like that. That's really something I'm going to do today.
There you go, brother. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you being on the show today. Always good to see you. Hopefully get to see you in person here sometime soon. Hey, for those of you listening, remember, the bucket list life is a life worth living. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to reach out to Jeremy. We'll put his name and email address in the show notes. Again, have a wonderful day. And remember, the bucket list life is a life worth living.